This is Lady Anne, owner of KPNL Radio and hostess of the Caravan Library of Lore, and I support Tessa. As an experiencer myself, I have filed my own reports with them, and the professionalism and heart they have shown my case goes above and beyond. If you have had an experience, I cannot recommend Tessa enough.
Hi, this is Ernie Hudson, Winston Zedmore from Ghostbusters. I want to let you know that Ryan Stacy, he's created the Experiencer Support Association, TESA. You can check them out at www.tesacan.org. Now, they investigate paranormal, UFO, and provide support to experiencers. But you can check them out at, like I said, www.tesacan.org and see for yourself if they're really Ghostbusters. I can tell you this, they are a non-profit organization. Good luck, have fun, and keep it blessed.
Good evening. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association. Tessa is a UFO, paranormal, and paracryptid investigation association. We investigate everything belonging to the global phenomenon linked to highly strange and unexplained experiences. We also connect experiencers with other experiencers, creating a safe, positive environment to engage and discuss this phenomenon without judgment, criticism, or retribution. From the land of the white rolling sands, from the southeasterly tip of Georgian Bay, to all of you listening around the world, as we simulcast live on KPNL Radio, we salute you. If you want to go back and listen to our previous episodes, go to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button and ring that bell to be instantly notified when we are live, not only for these episodes, but every single element Tessa has to offer. On our website, tessacan.org, we have something for everyone. We have support for experiencers, data for independent researchers, and places to advertise for professional partners. Hello, everybody. Today is Thursday, September 9th, 2021, and I, Ryan Stacy, am your host this evening. I'm trying a new microphone thing, so I apologize for this little thing here, but I'm trying to set this all up. So I hope it sounds really good for you guys tonight. So for those of you who don't know, I am a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencer Support Association. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. Remember to super chat, click the $ next to your name in the comment box. All donations go back into the mission. If you're catching this on the replay, please consider becoming a member and unlock bonus content, including behind the scenes and extended footage on new project developments and investigations. So just click the big blue button that says join. Okay, so our guest for season 3, episode 28 is Damien Nott. Damien Nott was born in Sydney, Australia, and grew up in the western suburbs of Sydney, where he currently resides. His story came to public attention in 2012 after contacting a UFO research organization in an attempt to find an answer to his repeated experiences with the UFO phenomenon. He became and continues to be an avid researcher, focusing on the subject. And I also learned in the pre-show that he's also a private investigator, so I'm really happy about that. He has appeared in episodes on Ancient Aliens, the documentary Beyond the Spectrum, and has also starred in Australian Skies. He has 2 new films, which is Haunted Skies and Fractured Reality. And I believe there's a third one, Fractured Realities Part 2, which will be coming out in spring or the summer. So, Damien, put on your tinfoil hat. We're about to go down a rabbit hole. How are you doing today?
It's always on my tinfoil hat.
All right.
Good, mate. How are you? How are you going up in Canada today, Ryan?
It's not too bad. It's a little cold today, but in these igloos we have, how is it down under?
It's actually not too bad. I think 2 nights ago we had the coldest night in 50 years here in town here. So, okay. And it's strange because we've just come out of winter, which is so it was minus 3.7. So it gets nothing compared to how you guys have it, but for here it's pretty cool. So
ours is coming. Ours is definitely coming. I just want to shout out to the members. I just realized a lot of members are on tonight. So hello, Christopher. Hello, Moonlight. Hello. Oh, Christopher, thank you for that super chat. Thank you, buddy. My dad popped on. Hey, Dad, how you doing? All right. So let's get into it. Like, I always like to start with, like, why are you the way? Oh, no, actually, before we get into that, pardon me. This episode is brought to us by Tim the Demon Guy Morrison. He provides an icebreaker. So I almost broke the rules there because it's been so long since I've done this podcast. But what he's done is he's created a question for me. I'm going to open this live and I'm going to ask it to get the show going. All right.
Too easy.
All right. So let's see what Timmy has for us this evening. So his question is, what do you want to be etched on your tombstone?
That's a great question. That's a brilliant question. If I have a tombstone at all, it would probably be, rest in peace, I guess. That's how I'd want to be, just resting in peace like everyone else. Well, you're not going to know anyway what's on your tombstone, so
that's true.
So it's not really going to matter.
All right, well, Tim, that's your icebreaker. Thank you for that. So you can find Tim the Demon Guy on cool Facebook question. And as well as Twitter as well. So let's get into that. Why are you the way that you are? How did this start?
Okay, it goes back to when I was 9. I had a sighting of a UFO, a red ball of light, a place called Blacktown, Western Sydney, and here in New South Wales. And it followed me down the street. It was mimicking my movements, probably about 12 to 15 feet above my head. I got home. It was only small, maybe the size of a basketball. I ran the rest of the way home after watching it for 30, 40 seconds or something, and it started to freak me out. I realized it was something very strange, and ran home and told my mom, and mom said it was just an aeroplane. So that kind of got me going into the whole, I knew it wasn't an aeroplane. So I was kind of like one of those kids who was like, no, I've got to be right about this. So I started looking into it a little bit and reading books as much as I could. But it wasn't until 3 years later when I was 12 and I was camping with my brothers, my stepbrothers at the time. And we're just looking up at the sky and lying on our backs, and a really hot night. All of a sudden a red ball started coming down from the sky again. And I was like, wow, that's what I saw. And I was telling them that's what I saw 3 years ago. And like, oh, wow, we're watching. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And then the next second, a ball from the left has come, and it was a brilliant blue colored ball, and started chasing this red ball across the sky, like vast distances. And then it would stop and then take off in a 90-degree left-hand turn with no forward inertia whatsoever. Just completely mind-blowing across vast distances of the sky, and then they'd stop and go a different way. Within about another minute or so, or 2 minutes of this happening, another ball came in, like a greenish yellow colored ball, started chasing the red ball with the blue ball around the sky. So there was this big circus thing happening, and we were just watching it going, wow, this is incredible. And then all of a sudden the red ball took off up this way. This would have been, my father came out and saw it as well. So there was 4 witnesses to this event when I was 12, and we couldn't explain. We didn't know what they were. but I knew that I'd seen the same thing a couple of years earlier. But so it was this sighting which really propelled me into finding out even more about it, more so than the sighting I had when I was 9, because I guess I was a little bit older and whatnot. So I started going to the school libraries more and borrowing books off friends and people and trying to find out and talk to teachers about the subject and all this sort of stuff. And then I started to see the stigma that was attached to it. And then I started wondering, why is there such a stigma attached to this? And then as you grow older, you start to realize, yeah, there's reasons why there's a stigma attached to this phenomenon. No one really wants to talk about it. Even people who've seen it want to keep it to themselves. And I wasn't a person who's like that. I wanted to share it with people. So during the course of my life, from when I was 12, I'd probably seen a very small handful of UFOs all the way up to a decade ago. And so there was a very small part of my life, even though I still, for the past 33 years, have still been reading about it, researching, watching other documentaries. No, I know all the cases going way back, but it's not until you experience the phenomenon yourself that you can really have a kind of grasp and understanding of more of what's going on than just reading it in a book. And so a decade ago, I came up to the country here, and on the second night, I witnessed a massive white ball of light, and this thing was huge, and it was floating. This is only at 11:30 at night. Was floating past. We live in a town of 750 people, so everyone, there's 3 street lights in the whole town. So we're known as the astronomy capital of Australia around this area, Coonabarra and Dunedoo, because you can see the sky, the Milky Way. It's beautiful. There's no city lights or anything like that hampering the view. No light pollution, and just down the road we have a satellite dish, and we have observatory and all this sort of stuff. So it's a perfect area for it out here. But this white ball moves silently, and it must have been half the size of this house, and I'd never seen one that big before, down that low, just huge, and gliding silently over the rooftop. And we had, in town at that night, we had cattle auctions. So on the outside of town, there's all these cattle, and and this thing was headed towards the cattle. And so as it was moving, it disappeared behind this shed, and I never saw it come out the other side. And I was like, what the hell? But then within a few seconds, all the dogs started barking throughout town. All of the cattle started going crazy in their pens. You could hear them banging up against the metal railings and carrying on and so all over town, there was all these animals just all at once while this thing was down, reacting to it. There's no way in the world. It's like they were reacting to a predator. They were sensing this thing and reacting accordingly. It was very unusual. And I've seen this multiple times before, even with the smaller balls of light, animals reacting to them and whatnot. So yeah, it was really strange. So after a few more sightings, and I'd get my father involved, and he'd come and see more and everything. And after a few more, and after a very close sighting, I contacted a UFO group in Sydney. They came up, they sent investigators up, and the first investigator who came into town, a gentleman called S03E028. I was out the backyard at the time, and I had a camera pointed up over the house, and I heard my name being called. So I've run through the house, and here's this investigator who's rocked up into town after a 4.5-hour drive, and my father out the front yelling my name, pointing up over my head. So I've looked up behind me, and there's this massive disc-shaped, orange glowing UFO just moving silently during the daytime, low over the house, heading right where I was in the backyard with the camera and everything. So it was incredible. And we just watched it, and straight away the lead investigator, the other guys were still catching up to him. I think there was 9 people that came into town on that weekend. And yeah, they all saw UFOs here. We had the president come up of the same group the following weekend, and she saw 9 of them in the backyard here, lights that would stop over the backyard, flash really bright, and then take off in another direction. Multiple lights at the same time, spinning around each other and going off in different directions, and all sorts of really bizarre things. And she'd never seen a UFO before, so her mind was blown. And sure enough, at the same time in town, there was actually we have a newspaper here called the Sun Herald, and it's one of the biggest newspapers in Australia, one of the most respected ones anyway. And they were in town investigating the bushfires just outside of town, and they were staying at the same bed and breakfast that this UFO group president was staying at. And sure enough, the lady there said, "Oh, there's a guy up the road, and there's a woman investigating him." And sure enough, they were keen on talking to me, the journalist. So I said, "Yeah, come up, no worries." And they've come up into the backyard, and within about 5 minutes, so the four of us are standing there. Within 5 minutes, Mariana Flynn, who was the president of the UFO group, UFO Research New South Wales, she's actually said, "Can you get your friends to come?" And I'm like, oh, that's no mean treat. I don't have them on a string. I can't pull them down from the sky. But I thought, hey, I'll give it a shot. And so I just sat down and I thought, guys, now would be the best time for you to come. I don't believe in that kind of stuff. But at the same time, within 5 seconds of me thinking this, 2 UFOs have come over the house playing a game of tag across the sky with each other in front of the journalists, in front of the president of the group. And they just, we just watched in amazement. The timing, everything was just impeccable. And so they wanted to do a story. And I said, well, look, if you guys come back the next weekend and see something else during a Skywatch when on your way back from doing the story, then fine, then I might go in the paper. But they came back and they're in a rush. And I said, well, look, I'm only going to go in the paper if you include that you saw the UFOs that you saw. And they did. So from then on in, we had people coming from around Australia, hiring buses from the Northern Territory, coming down here with families of 15, 20 people, people just rocking up at the door unannounced. It was bedlam. People would go downtown, and because it's a small town, everyone knows everyone. So they'd ask around town, oh, do you know where Damien Nott is? And, oh, he lives up at this address. Some people would tell them, unfortunately. And so we'd have people rocking up at the door all hours of the night, morning. It was crazy for a while, but I stayed around here for about 10 months, and then I started up AAPI, Australian Aerial Phenomena Investigations, around the same time. And just to sort of get some people behind me, get some other investigators on board, try and work out what's going on with this phenomenon a bit more and trying to get into it a bit more. And yeah, it's gone from there. So I've been in a few documentaries and stuff like that. And I've been lucky enough now that 3 of the documentaries out of the 5 I've been in, UFOs have actually shown up during the making of it, which is really bizarre. And they've included it in the documentaries. So it's pretty strange, the phenomenon. So that's pretty much
why do you
where I am now.
It's so interesting how you're able to attract so much. So why do you think it? Do you think it's you? Like, why is this happening?
I don't think it's me. I mean, I have everyone else tell me it's me because they've been around me and seen it, and they've never seen stuff before. And my ex-partner Melissa, she'd never seen anything, and then we caught up, and then we were together for several years, and she saw over 80 UFOs with me in that time. And so I I can't say it's me, and I'm not an ego-filled maniac. I actually, I'm a bit down to earth, and I don't believe that it's me. But I mean, a gentleman called Mike Williams, he's a paranormal investigator. He's a Fortean researcher as well, into the big cats, poltergeists, UFOs, the whole range of everything. He's been following my case for 10 years, and he's witnessed UFOs with me. He's seen them, actually, rods of light, what we can describe as rods of light, which we also caught on camera at a place called Tipperary in New South Wales. We're doing a bit of a skywatch at this place, and rods of light would come from up high, change directions multiple times, then fly into the ground and melt into the ground without any sound, nothing. It was just, they'd melt. And one flew right across down my arm and melted into the ground as I'm reaching down to grab a camera. And both Mike and I, Lance was there too, we jumped. I mean, we really jumped like 10 feet in the air. It scared the hell out of us. The following morning, we had the camera set up on the valley behind us. We recorded 13 of these same objects coming down from up high and flying into the valley behind us while our backs were turned, which was really, really bizarre. And so, yeah, it was a really weird experience. So he's seen all that stuff around me, and he tends to think that it's me, because there's a lot of strange electrical stuff that happens with me, and ghost things and poltergeist things flying off shelves, books coming out of the thing and flying off in front of multiple people. I had friends over one day, and we're outside the garage, and I had an office inside the garage, and all of a sudden we heard this big crash bang in the office, and we've run in, all 3 of us at the same time, and then the next second we've looked on the floor, and there's a photo frame standing up perfectly on its side, which had flown off the wall about 7 feet from itself, there was no earthquakes or anything. We couldn't work out how it did it, landing perfectly on its side. And the side was like about maybe 3 centimeters. It was very tiny. We tried to get it to stand up by itself with our own fingers. It kept falling over. So whatever, the chance of things like that happening is really, really weird.
Do you remember your mood that day? How were you that day?
Sometimes I was happy. I mean, I'm usually a pretty happy-go-lucky kind of guy, but yeah, a lot of this stuff is a bit stressful, so I do get stressed out sometimes. Especially like when you can't explain it and you're really looking for an answer, and you kind of, it's like the phenomenon is that strange and that weird that you can't, once you think you know what it is, you kind of set back a little bit more. And that's why I keep saying to people who think they know what the phenomenon is, you don't really know what you're talking about. So anyone who says that, oh, because they're selling a book or they're doing this or that, most people have no idea because they're not experiencing it. But this subject's all about money anyway, about stories, about fanciful stories.
There's a large percentage of it is like that too. And the investigation part is kind of
you have to sort through the real and the
it's boring.
Who's getting stories off the internet and repeating them and making little twists to them and stuff like that. That's what I found out with me when I started doing presentations and conferences around Australia here, like a decade ago when I first started coming out. You get people trying to latch onto you. They'd steal parts of your story, then go at it onto their story, start calling themselves star kids or star children or whatever. And you're like, oh, wow. You know, meanwhile, these love and light people, they claim to love you and all this sort of stuff, but they're some of the most nastiest people I've ever come across in my life. I mean, these love and light brigades. So, I mean, I really... I try and stick with
we have that here in Canada too.
Yeah, I think they're all around the world, my friend.
You're not alone, man.
I think they're all around the world. Yeah.
So
can't do much about them.
How has these sightings? I guess. Okay, so you mentioned phenomenon. So I just want to be clear. When you say phenomenon, do you only mean the UFO orbs, bright orbs, or are you talking about paranormal? Like, have you ever seen?
I'm talking about paranormal. All phenomenon together. Mike and myself are working on a documentary at the moment called Haunted Skies, which goes into a lot of the connections between the different phenomenon. We've come up with about 23 possible definite connections, which are strange in themselves, but some you could like wipe aside, but some of them could be circumstantial coincidences, but some of them are like the fact that a lot of the phenomenon acts the same way. Okay, so there's an analogy that I like to use, which I stole from Mike. If you're listening, it's if you're a ghost hunter and you see a ball of light in your home, you're going to call it a ghost. If you're a farmer and you see a ball of light on your property, you're going to call it a min light or a mystery light, like in America with the Brown Mountain and all that sort of stuff. But if you're a ufologist and you see the same ball of light in the sky, you're going to call it a UFO. So there's a lot of parallels with the different phenomenon and the way they appear, disappear, the way they both affect animals, they affect camera equipment. They seem to give off a very similar signature when they appear and disappear as well, which can be picked up on tri-field meters, EMF there. If they both affect the Earth's magnetic field when they appear and disappear. So I'm postulating that what scientists call dark matter or ulterior universes or multi-dimensions or whatever you want to call it, that's possibly where these things are coming from. The universe is made of dark matter. We can't see it, but it's all around us. Apparently, there's mathematic models for it and everything, but we don't know what it is. So there's a possibility that all these things are coming from this same place and they're existing possibly alongside of us at all times. I know it sounds strange, but there's a good possibility that's happening. And and with the ET phenomenon as well, I mean, there's a chance that back in the days, like the old cases, like in the 70s and whatnot, where you'd have the flying saucers come down and figures get out and, it'd be seen, like the case like Lonnie Zamora and other very well, publicized cases where actually beings have been seen getting out and taking samples and doing stuff. That could be beings from other planets, right? They wouldn't need to keep coming back once they've come here once they already know what's going on. But we live in a universe that's possibly full of life, life we can't see, life we can see, life on other planets. I think it's all around us, and we're like ants or monkeys kind of speculating on something we really have no idea about. That's why I call it a paranatural enigma. The next documentary is Fractured Realities Part 2, a paranatural enigma, because I believe that a lot of this phenomenon that's taken place around us is natural. We seem to think it is paranormal, but I think it's a natural phenomenon. So it's around us, and I think it's part of our universe. It's part of our day-to-day life. We just don't see it. It's out of our spectrum, our visible spectrum, but it's there. People can sense things. People can feel things. A lot of the experiences I've had have told me that there's something very, very strange going on. And I can't say much else apart from that. I mean, except for putting across a couple of hypotheses of what it could possibly be, but I still don't know myself.
No, I'm with you. Like I'm trying to understand all the phenomenon too. So we have, as I mentioned earlier, the ultra spectrum is what we're calling, as we're trying to classify all these things and try to understand, if it's the same thing or something separate. But like that normality that you just explained there, I'm with you on that. Like if it's just paranormal in the sense because we don't understand it, but if it is just a normal, natural thing, and we ourselves are the conduits or something of that sense, then it is normal. We just don't understand. So, like the terminology for sure is making it hard. And you're onto something because, like, yes, that's exactly same brains, exactly how I'm thinking with this too. So. Everything's positive. Like, have you ever had a negative experience? Anything?
Yeah, I've had some negative experiences. The sleep paralysis phenomenon. I've had some really nasty ones of them. And also
comfortable sharing
had an experience. Sorry?
Are you comfortable sharing those? If not, it's okay. I'm just.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I'll just make it brief. But I'd moved into this house. And I'm lying in the bed next to my partner, and she's fully asleep. I can't remember what time it is. Next second, the room started going this reddish color, and it was like a tinge because the moon was already shining through the room, and I was awake because I just lied back down on the bed 2 seconds earlier, slid my eyes open. And then the next second, the room started changing this reddish color. Then all of a sudden on the wall, I started feeling this pressure on my arm, on my left shoulder, pushing me down into the bed, and it was getting heavier and heavier. And as it's pushing me down, I'm looking at the wall to my left, and I couldn't move. And I'm trying to scream to Mel, going, "What's going on?" I'm trying to reach her. I couldn't move my hand. And on the wall is this big black mist that started developing, and it's spinning around and spinning, and it had little edges coming off it that were disappearing and little bits flying off it and everything. It was just spinning and spinning like it was a black hole or something. You could put your hand through it and it would disappear. It was really, really strange. And then all of a sudden I'm thinking, I've heard of this before. I've researched this phenomenon, and I know that I'm not a highly religious person, but I know that other people have said when they've mentioned the name Jesus that this thing has stopped. And I've seen that multiple times in my research with the phenomenon. And so in my mind, I thought, because I couldn't scream, I was making this strange sound while I'm trying to scream. I couldn't get anything out. But something was coming out. It was really weird. And the next second I thought Jesus, and then all of a sudden the pressure instantly lifted off me. This thing disappeared off the wall. The red tinge disappeared out of the room, and that was it. And I sat up and I'm like, Mel, and I woke her up, and she's like, "What happened?" I explained to her. Literally 3 days later, because I was in the other office down the other end in the other spare room, and and I'd crashed out like there one night and on the spare sofa in there, and after, because I'd worked really late, and same thing happened again. I started feeling this pressure, and I'm watching. I was still awake. I know I was still awake, and inside the door, because I had the door closed, there's these lines, these straight lines started appearing. There's these eyes, these almond-shaped, glowing, golden eyes like this started appearing. Just inside the door, had full parallax. You could see right around it. It wasn't attached to anything. It wasn't on the wall. It was down from the ceiling and in from the door. You could see it clear as. And it formed this head around these eyes with straight lines that weren't connected. They weren't connecting, but it looked like a transformer robot almost. It was absolutely bizarre, this thing. But as it was, the sense of fear and petrification, watching this thing, not being able to move, scream, say anything. It's an insanely scary experience. I'm sure you've had similar experiences yourself with the phenomenon. It's absolutely nuts. But I've never seen the shadow people in that phenomenon, the hat people, that old hag that a lot of people see. I don't see that phenomenon myself. I've never seen that. I've only had the experience twice, but it was petrifying. But 2 years ago, I did have an experience with UFOs, which was not nice at all. And it's left me probably, a little bit shaken still to this day. And I left the UFO field and I stopped talking for groups and everything for about 8-9 months after that. I saw a light with my dog, and it was a purple ball of light. I've never seen a purple ball of light before. And it was like early in the morning. I was out in the garage working. I decided to have a break, get some fresh air. I went to the door. I'm looking up, and just the tree right next to the garage would have been about maybe 12, 13 feet in height. And just above the tree, this purple light appeared. With white radiating out to a purple exterior, which was glowing, this beautiful, intense radiating color. It was incredible. But one thing I noticed, even though it was right above the tree, it wasn't reflecting its light onto the tree. That's one thing I noticed. But my dog was sitting next to me, just watching this thing, not barking, not anything. He's seen a lot of UFOs, my dog, and over the previous 10 years and living here 10 years ago as well. And this thing, it just went poof, exploded in a ball, a light. There was just a white light. I instinctively raised my hand up in front of my face to protect my face. There was a warmth that came through me. I felt it. And then as soon as this warmth hit, my dog started barking. This thing was gone. The yard was all normal again. The bright white light had disappeared, except my eyes were stinging a little bit. But I didn't feel bad. I felt okay. So I went to bed. I crashed in the garage that night on the sofa. And the next morning I went in and saw Mel, and she said, "You got to look at yourself in the mirror." And sure enough, I did. And I was white, pale as a ghost, with red splotches all over my face and neck. My eyes were almost stuck together. I was in a real bad way. And over a period of about 3 or 4 days, I started developing this red mark on my arm so that night I was wearing a jacket because it was a cold night. And I started developing this red, almost like a sunburn through my jacket. And then over about a week or so, I started having seizures about 3 days afterwards, just before this started blistering out into these blisters, like these yellowy green blisters. We went to, I started having seizures, and during one of these, my dog started having seizures at the same time as well. I had to put my dog down eventually. And we spent 7 months going to the best specialists in Sydney, multiple doctors to get referrals to other special doctors that we couldn't get. We ended up at professors, skincare specialists, you name it, we went. They found out I had a rare bone disease called hypophosphatemic osteomalacia, which can be caused by exposure to radiation. And they said I had bones of like a 95-year-old woman at the age of 40. And they said that's impossible. It can't happen. Or a gene mutation can cause this particular disease. And it also mimics osteoporosis as well. Now, osteoporosis in a 40-year-old man is rare enough as it is, let alone this other disease which mimics it, which is actually 1,000 times rarer. And so they couldn't explain it. They said that one of the doctors, I actually broke my back during one of these seizures I had, and because my bones were that weak, I fell over and broke my back in 3 places. So during that time, I couldn't work. I couldn't do anything. I'm basically lying down on a floor almost, on a bed, but trying to recover. And so this whole time, but my arm over this time, they couldn't work out how my arm melted basically off. The left side of my arm, I have the worst scar there now. It somehow melted my arm off. And the best specialists in Sydney couldn't work out what caused it. They thought I might have been near some island in northern Australia, some rare island, caught some weird bacterial infection or something. I'm like, no, I was been nowhere near an island, so really weird.
When I got your prep too, there was pictures attached to that, and I think some of those pictures were what you just described.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I share that? Or
Yeah,
like,
sure, go for it.
so that way the
It's been
ones that
it's been
can,
seen before, but if you're
yeah, well,
squirmish, look away.
because I was gonna ask. I had it kind of prepped because I was gonna ask, but now that I have the story, um, these are really, this is really intense for blisters.
Yeah, it started getting like this after maybe 5 days. It started getting redder and redder and redder, and this is probably about a week and a half into it, and it started then blistering. And like it wasn't painful. There was no, you could touch it leading up to the blisters, and even during when I had the blisters, you could touch it, and there was no pain. Like if you got sunburnt, right? You could
Yeah.
touch your skin, and you recoil because it's a little bit sore, right?
Uh-huh.
I could feel nothing. There was nothing, which would
And that was the
indicate
same term you used to shield your eyes.
that's the same
Yeah.
exactly. And so I
That
don't
is
know
wild.
what was going on with it. It was just a really bizarre experience. It caused a lot of drama in my life. I left the field for several months, 9 months or something, and I just didn't want to talk about UFOs anymore. I thought these guys are evil. What was all that about? But one good thing that did come of it. And I won't know till another month anyway if my bones are 100% correct, because in Australia we have this law with bone density scans. Because of the amount of radiation in a bone density scan, you're only allowed to have one every 2 years. So I'm due for mine. It'll be 2 years this September when I've had it the last time. So I'll find out whether all the treatments and everything that I've been on have actually worked, and the vitamins and all this sort of stuff they've had me on for the last 2 years. It's been absolutely insane.
That's like, I've never heard anything like that at all. Like that is unique, and
it is pretty crazy. And
I mean, I don't blame you for leaving having something like that. But the thing that I'm just trying to wrap my head around with all this is, and what I was listening for is trying to try to understand the why, because you are some sort of beacon in some sense, because you're the main character in all these orb things, and you're seeing multiple colors of orbs always. And then, but this one particular, small star supernova thing, kind of whatever happened. Do you think it was intentionally trying to cause harm to you, or that was just what was?
I don't know. Look, part of me thinks that maybe it was some sort of weird accident and it disappearing, because I've never seen one this color in my life, and I've filmed literally tens of dozens of them. I've seen literally probably hundreds of them during my life and never seen one this color. So it was really strange. Now, one thing that did come from this, which was a positive note, was the fact I went to, because they started saying it was affecting my heart. It's affected a whole bunch of different things all through my body over the last couple of years. But one thing that they did find, they found a 20-centimeter precancerous tumor in my stomach. And this was when I was going to specialists, went to a gastroenterologist, because I was trying to work out whether they thought I had pointers for different diseases, but they couldn't put their finger on celiac or lactose intolerance or this or that. And they were changing constantly what they were saying was wrong with me. And I was like, I was going on different diets, and then they say, no, that's not wrong with you, it's something else wrong, it's probably this. And then they say, no, it's not that, it's probably this. And it's like, it was insane, and we spent a lot of money going to different doctors trying to work out what was actually wrong with me. And still, this is a subject because of the stigma. You can't just go out to a doctor and say, this happened because I saw a ball of light that blew up in a white thing and it burnt me or something. You can't say that to a doctor, especially a professor. They'll think you're absolutely nuts. And
what did you end up saying, though? Because you had to explain.
I did mention about, I said, I do work around radiation or possible radiation, some type of possible radiation, because I've had balls come up close to me in my life. Like I said, I've had that thing go down my left arm that melted into the ground. I've had red balls come up close to me a few times in my life. Yellow ball come up really close to me once. And who's to say that these things aren't giving off some sort of they're not doing it on purpose. Maybe they're giving off. So if this thing hadn't happened, I wouldn't have found out about this tumor in my stomach, right? And I could be dead now. You know what I mean? So some see that as a positive. I see it as a positive in a way.
Well, yeah, you're alive. That's a very good positive.
That's some sort of positive, right? Yeah, man. So it was just but then everything else I've had to deal with over the past, and now I've got heart problems because of it, and high heart rate, blood pressure, and all this sort of stuff, and they can't work out what's causing it. And it's because I've got heart issues, and it's just all of a sudden all these medical problems have sprung from this one event. Whereas before that, I was fairly healthy. You know, I mean, not the healthiest person in Earth. I'm not like an athlete running for a gold medal or nothing, but still, I was pretty healthy. But yeah, this really knocked me for a six.
This event, it was uninvited, right? Like you were trying to make, you were like, when it came out,
no, it was random.
Yeah, it was random.
No, completely random. Like it was just, it appeared and then just disappeared. Within a few seconds, it was gone. You know, and
see, we've often talked about the risks with CE5 and seances and paranormal encounters, and I've
you don't know what you're calling. You don't know what you're
and then this is the very thing that I imagine could be a scenario that could happen. So you're like, this is like, I'm sorry, man. Like, that is horrible.
Oh, don't be sorry, brother. Yeah. It's just one of the things that happens, man. You know, it's just life. It is strange. I started looking into more and more during the time, like when I had my broken back. I started looking into more about the nasty side of UFOs than I ever had in my life. You know, and I've read cases like Colares, Brazil, and a few other cases of so-called human mutilation and stuff like that, where they can't explain what happened. Where, you know, basically humans have been tampered with in ways that cattle have been found tampered with, you know, like innards pulled out through little holes and stuff like that. Really strange laser cuts and all this kind of weird stuff. I mean, I started going down that road, and that was a bit dark for me. I was like, yeah, this is enough. I don't want to go anywhere near that kind of stuff. But it does happen. There are cases where people have been attacked and hurt by UFOs. And anybody who says that UFOs are all good, you have no idea, and you're not experiencing the real phenomenon. There is a cosmic trickster element to this phenomenon, and this phenomenon has changed itself over the eons to appear as different things to different people in different times in different parts of the world. Yeah. And Jacques Vallée went into that a lot. And I mean, I grew up reading his books and everything, but it's not until experiencing it myself where I start to see a lot of the connections in what he's actually saying, and a lot of the connections in what they were talking about, just say, 200-300 years ago in Ireland, strange abductions from, certain creatures, and lights and rooms that are lit up and you can't see the light source and all this sort of stuff. And it rings true with today's, a lot of today's abduction cases and scenarios of being on craft and all this sort of stuff. They're reporting the same sort of things. And so, yeah, there's a possibility that's connected. But there was the airship wave back in the 1890s, and where who knows if they were unknown German inventors at the time who were cruising around. But it wasn't until several years later the actual inventors started coming out and showing their wares in the sky. So who really knows? So these things seem to appear in ways just ahead of our own technology as to not completely freak us out. And then it would change to flying saucers. But there is the core element of the phenomenon, which is repeated all the way through history, seemingly for the last couple thousand years, been reports of these balls of light. The balls of light seem to be the BOL phenomenon, seems to be the core of this phenomenon. And then you've got the flying saucers and the Hollywood side of it and all that sort of stuff. I mean, in my life, I've seen one of these flying saucers in the year 2000. The best way I can describe it is it was a flying saucer. It was directly above the Olympic Stadium that I was working on at the time, 2 weeks before the opening ceremony of the Olympics. And we're doing some work on these stairs where the journalist boxes were down underneath. And right at the end of the day, and I had sweat in my eyes, and I've looked up, and here's this thing. It's stopped directly above, and it had a bubble hanging out the bottom of it, and it had a coppery color thing, which what looked like writing almost, but it wasn't writing. It was like connected little black lines around the perimeter that was spinning around while this bubble in the middle was staying. And it kind of didn't look like a metallically chrome colored thing. It was slightly different than that, but it came to a near stop, didn't fully stop, then it went, boom, it was gone straight out towards Sydney, towards the Sydney city, and that was it. And I said to the guy, the electrician who was near me, I said, "Did you just see that?" And he's like, "See what?" And I said, "The thing above us that stopped and flew off." And he goes, "No, mate, I think you've had too much sun today." He thought I was hallucinating or something. I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to say anything else. I'll deal with that. It's fine." But yeah, it was a bit weird. It was a bit strange, but And also in the backyard here, when people were coming here 10 years ago, I was with another well-known Australian UFO guy, and we had our cameras set up. We had I had about 10 batteries from my camera, maybe 10 to 12 batteries, and all fully charged during the day. We'd made sure all of them were charged for that night, and we'd set our tripods up. He had a brand new camera with 3 batteries, I think, 3 brand new batteries, all fully charged during the day. I checked his batteries, he checked mine. Sure enough, we saw this thing coming from a distance, very low on the angle, coming up over the yard, towards the yard, and it had multiple colored lights around the front end of it. We couldn't see like around the sides. They seemed to go around the side in almost like a circular kind of pattern. They looked like porthole windows which were lit up, and the lights were changing color in a rhythmic kind of pattern as this thing was coming over us. Now, we started filming. I got one photo before one of my cameras died. The battery just completely drained. And you can see these lights a little bit out of focus, but you can see them. And then one after the other, both his and my batteries failed while this thing glided silently. It was huge, glided silently over the yard. No sound, no anything, couldn't hear anything coming from it. The batteries would start off full battery power and then drain 0 battery power within a second, just gone. And we've seen this time and time again, and not just with UFO, but with other paranormal phenomenon when it seems to be around. It seems to drain power for some reason, which is really strange in itself.
Sorry, yeah, I'm into this. I didn't expect you to stop. I was like right into that. So
I could keep going on, man.
Hey, we still got an hour.
Literally, if you got a couple of weeks, like if this goes for 2 weeks, I could blabber.
I have a question. Like, here's the thing too: is like I've always, I hear lots of good things about Australia, and then it's like, you know, I've written Australia off because of your giant spiders and your giant snakes and your giant
Everyone
creatures.
does. It's not that bad.
But well, now you got freaking UFOs that's chasing you all over the place. So I don't know, But all kidding aside, I'm curious, especially with the way that the world is now open to UFOs with the United States. Talking about that Pentagon thing. So I'm curious to know your opinion on that and how that compares to, I guess, the Australian government in terms of disclosure or approach to the UFO phenomenon.
Well, we follow everything that you guys, or the American government, I should say, do. So if the American government were to come out and officially say, I'm not talking about recently with the Pentagon release, that was nothing. That was basically, oh yeah, there's a small bunch of cases here we've looked at. They're all very strange, but if we had more information, we could probably solve them as something benign and ordinary, not something out of this planet. So they're basically just sort of pushing it aside. A 9-page report on the most spectacular, incredible phenomenon to ever visit or ever be around us. It's just a joke and a slap in the face for all these people who've been waiting for disclosure. Now, I've always said disclosure is not going to come from the governments, and even if it did, a lot of people don't believe the governments anyway. But at the same time, I mean, a lot of people do. A lot of people take everything they say as complete gospel. What did come of that Pentagon release for me was it got people talking about the phenomenon, and that's what we need. We need people talking about it openly, not in a sarcastic kind of, I'll take the mickey out of this person because he's crazy kind of way. This is a subject that's so important. I mean, what philosophers for thousands of years have been trying to work out who we are, why we're here, this whole thing. And as far as I can see, I mean, if anyone would know what we are and who we are and why we're here, it's these things that have been visiting us and watching us for how many eons. And there's that side part too, which goes, we could be possibly an experiment of some type. And so with a scientist, when you create something like bacteria in a petri dish, you don't jump in with the bacteria and live with them. You watch from afar, you observe, every now and then you might add something or you might do something little or whatever, but no, you pretty much keep your hands off and you observe. Now, it seems to be what they are doing. They're observing us on a deeper, more a very strange level than more than what we could possibly know. I believe that they're around us a lot of the time. We just, like I said before, we can't see them, and they are crossing over from somewhere. And I don't think it's just from other planets and they're coming here and they're doing stuff. I think that's a part of the phenomenon, but there is the core phenomenon. Say, for instance, 500 years ago in Germany, there was a case where a gentleman, he was seen by members of this town, a lot of people, walking over a bridge heading into the town in Germany near Nuremberg, I think. And they witnessed a red ball of light following him just above his head, similar to what I had when I was 9. And it was mimicking his movements. And they all described it the same way. When he would stop walking, it would stop. When he would continue walking, it would move with him. Now, this is exactly what happened with me. I didn't find out about this case until Jacques Vallée and Chris Aubeck released a book about 2 years ago called Wonders in the Sky, where they had a whole bunch of things. They went through history and they found all these cases of recordings of possible UFO sightings. Now, they threw out a lot of the ones that, it could be this, or it could be misconstrued, it could be a meteorological phenomenon or a natural phenomenon of some type, which a lot of this stuff is, misidentified as. And but this thing, how can they say? Now, what happened is this guy walked into town, he walked over this bridge, and everyone in town was shutting their doors, and they didn't want him to come anywhere in because they saw it as an omen, a bad omen, this red light following him into town. They didn't want nothing to do with him, so he kept walking through the town. This thing brought him or took off, who knows? But it's cases like that. There've been reports like that going back, and you can't really misconstrue that as a natural phenomenon following someone's head and mimicking their movements directly above their head. I mean, and from what I saw, when I heard about that case, I was blown away because that gave me, I'd never heard of a case like that before, and that gave me a little bit of a boost in a way, because I thought, at least I know what I experienced was 100% real when I was 9. Like it's still such a memory for me. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Like I'm looking at it, I can see it in my mind's eye. It was such an event, a big event in my life, same as the one when I was 12 with my brothers. Like for years afterwards, we'd catch up, and that would be the first thing we'd talk about. I remember, it'll be one of the first things that comes up is, remember that UFO we saw when we were kids, and it really affected all of us, but I guess me more so because I'm the one who started getting into it more so and researching it more and looking into it more. And so I have found, you mentioned before it may be me, but what I found is when you show interest in the phenomenon shows interest back in you. And I think that could be part of what's going on here.
Well, there's a lot of parts. There's a lot, why you and not me? Why, or somebody else? Like, what is it about you that makes this happening to you and your friends and in that particular area? You got to look into all those things. There's so many variables to measure, and you as an individual investigator with your team, you've obviously done your research on your own, and you've come to these conclusions based on your own analysis, and we're on the same page. But we need more of a that communion kind of working together and sharing kind of data.
We're on the outer edge of this thing. Unfortunately, a lot people who connect the phenomenons together or who experience multiple phenomenon, it happens more than what people think. And this is why there's another connection with me is if you experience the aerial phenomenon, you're more likely to experience phenomena in your house or strange haunting poltergeist type phenomenon. It happens too. It's like with John Keel with the Mothman prophecies, and in that town in Point Pleasant at the time, they were seeing lights in the sky. They were seeing weird creatures flying about, and they were having poltergeist activity down below all at the same time over this short period, and then it all just stops. When the bridge collapsed, and then so who knows? There was some strange stuff happening.
It either
like in these
all
hot
exists.
spots.
Yeah, exactly. It either all exists or it doesn't, and so it's and all of it has to be. And
connected. There's evidence pointing that a lot of this is existing, because it's showing up on camera. It's showing up. It's not just something that your eyes are seeing, and you're not. Because if you're crazy, that means your camera's crazy too, if your camera's picking it up. And that means the guy next to you is crazy as well. And everyone around you is crazy if they're seeing it too. So it's either a shared hallucination or it's real.
Have you ever gotten any reports of these orbs and these lights now that you've seen them yourself, so you can vouch that they exist? But what if they don't have any physical evidence? You know, what if they're seeing it in their mind? Is it possible that they're still having an experience, but just it's a like, you know, like it's not.
It
in
could
this
be
world
tailor
as in
made
the
for
other one.
people's minds. It could be
Yeah.
tailor made for people's minds. What I found as strange about the phenomenon, with a lot of the abduction scenarios, is that it happens during the sleep period when your mind is switched off and you're in a different kind of wavelength.
Consciousness
Some could
just
say,
out there,
yeah, when you're at your weakest,
Yeah.
some could say, right? It's same as sleep paralysis, when you're just in between going to sleep and still partly awake. Seems that that's when you're at your weakest and when things can sort of start hammering you. But that's when a lot of the abduction starts taking place, and people wake up in their beds as
That might
normal.
be when the mind is the strongest. You know,
It could be too. It could be,
right?
but you're not in ways. You're not, especially in your sleep. I mean, unless you're lucid dreaming, you're not really thinking that much. Unless you're in a dream, thinking, "Oh wow, I'm in a dream. This is incredible."
Yeah.
So, but even that, I love lucid dreaming, that kind of stuff too. All the phenomenon. Since I was young too, I haven't been just researching UFOs and whatnot. Actually, when I was 7, my mum had a book about the Bigfoot, about monsters, a little novel, you know, soft-covered novel from the 70s, and she had that in the library. So my mum had a little bit of an interest, and so I'd read that when I was like 7. So I have an interest in all the different phenomena and ghosts and stuff like that. So I do think that you know, it sort of makes you more well-rounded with one phenomenon if you know about all the other crazy stuff that's happening too, because then you can start seeing little weird, strange connections between them. And so for Haunted Skies, we're going to be showing at least 24 of these strange connections that we've found between multiple phenomena around this Earth. And some of the connections are very, very strange and very, you know, in your face, you could say. So
once it's ready, how can people find that?
We'll probably putting that up on YouTube Movies, maybe Amazon, not sure yet, but this is going to be one of the better ones I've made. Paranatural Enigma, I made that completely myself with a few people. It's got a lot of witnesses. That's out there on YouTube, so people can watch that for free.
So what's the name of the channel? What's the name of the channel? Direct them to it.
Oh yeah, it's under a channel called Damien Nott, or Damien Nott, which is my name, N-O-T-T. And yeah, and just type that into YouTube and it'll come up with my channel. There's a whole bunch of different things on there. There's also an AAPI channel, which is Australian Aerial Phenomena Investigations. That has a lot of my other sightings, a lot of my older videos and photographs in it as well. The new one has a lot of the newer stuff, but I'm still keeping a lot of the better footage over the past couple of years, especially because I've got better cameras now, and I'm sort of holding, I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket. So, and show, oh, everyone, I've just seen this today and blah, blah, blah. And it's a big competition with people around the world. I'm not interested in competing with people, you know, the UFO hunters and everything. And, oh, I saw something today, I'm the best. And I'm like, no, well, no, the egos in this field are just incredible, man. So you just got to be down to earth, I think. And, you know, just have an open heart to the phenomenon. And you know, and also not have your go down the rabbit hole. Everyone seems to go down the rabbit hole and they get stuck down there. And once you get down there, it's really hard to sort of like crawl your way back out. You know, I've gone down there a couple of times. I'm lucky I managed to get out of it. But you know, there's always.
I think we're in one right now.
Yeah, we probably are. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, just everything around is probably some sort of weird rabbit hole. So yeah, but it's a strange thing, and we don't know much about the world around us. We know hardly anything about the bottoms of our own oceans, let alone the upper atmosphere, which we've hardly ever explored. We don't know what's up there. We don't know what's in space, really. We have no real idea what's going on around us, but we like to think we know because it makes humans feel like they're in control. Like there's nothing to worry about if we know what's going on. But if you introduce all these strange little scary mysteries and people think, oh, we're being watched all the time, it would freak a lot of people out. Yeah, no doubt. Back in the 70s, and they did studies working out what would happen if the government came out and told the general public that UFOs do exist. And it would create, religions would collapse, and all this stuff that they said would go on. Societies would revolt, people would take to the mountains, and all this sort of stuff. And there was a good example of this during the War of the Worlds broadcast by Orson Welles back in the day. And it was only to one small part of New York City, right? People in there were going crazy. They actually thought Martians were coming. They'd killed the National Guard. They're on their way. They're going to smash you guys. So everyone's heading to the mountains. People were robbing from each other, stealing from each. They were just going crazy and trying to get out there and packing all their belongings and disappearing, and they found out it wasn't real, but it caused a lot of. So based on that, they worked out that, yeah, okay, it would maybe affect people. But nowadays, I think because a lot more people have turned away from religion, so we're not as religious as what we used to be. I think and because of the internet, a lot of more people are open-minded to other possibilities that we may not be alone, or there's something else going on that may be beyond our understanding. So people are more open to that now, and I think the internet's got a lot to do with that.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, we'll get into that after the break. Okay, so we made it to the hours. That was a good quick hour. Wow. So we're going to pause right here, but we will continue after a message from our professional partners. Also, if you're listening to this live on KPNL Radio or a future podcast, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association, and you will see the videos that go with this audio. Remember, you are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat, a podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
Ryan is one of Canada's